Hey, welcome back to a brand new season of The Art of SBA Lending. I'm here in our new podcast studios, my house, and we haven't even set up yet. The shelves are still bare, but I had to get this episode to you because I just sat down with Brooke Mirenda, President and CEO of SEDCO, a CDC here in Florida, and talked to her about her path to get here. She actually started as a BDO with the intent of becoming president at the CDC, which is a kind of a unique story. So we talked about that. She actually has now testified twice in front of Congress about the SBA 504 program. So that was super interesting. So stick around, check out the episode, and enjoy. I'm excited to catch up with you because I remember when you became president of your CDC. It's like, what's it been, like 5 years?
Yeah, almost exactly. November 17.
Oh, wow. Congrats. That's awesome.
Thanks.
And you were promoted from within, right? You were there before.
Yeah. So I started as a business development officer with the strategic plan was for me to become the president and CEO in 3 years.
Really?
And,
so you started like that?
It got moved up pretty quickly. The president and CEO that was there at SEDCO left in April of the following year. And he was planned to be there for 3 years. So everything got sped up really quickly. I didn't become the president right away, though. They actually put a board member that was on the board at the time as president. And then that didn't go so well. So that was, I guess, good for me. But yeah.
Yeah, because you're a CDC, so there's a
Correct.
board.
We have a board, yes. We're
And
a
how does that
nonprofit.
work? Do they control things?
Yes. So technically, yes, they do. I mean, so we've got a board of directors of 9. When I first started and became the president, we had 16.
I was going to say 9's too much.
Yeah, I know. Well, it is, but it isn't. I mean, I like a smaller board just to be more nimble so we can, make decisions faster, which is really my objective. So when we had 16, I made it very clear early on that I wanted to reduce board members, not because I didn't like them or anything. Of course, they're my bosses, so to speak, but I just thought we can move a lot faster and have really engaged board members if we have a smaller board. And
Sure.
so that's been the strategic plan since I became president, and now we're at 9. The minimum 7 for CDC, so that we have to follow CDC regs, and our bylaws govern what we can and cannot do as far as the board is concerned. So, and my bylaws are CDC reg, basically.
Right.
They're not going to be, I'm not going to have more strict bylaws.
Over and beyond what they require.
Right.
That's good.
Some CDCs might, but I don't.
You like staying nimble.
Yes, I do.
So, like, who's on a board of a CDC? Are they like retired bankers?
Yes, some of them are. Some of them, I mean, I have an attorney. Always want an attorney and a CPA on the board. That's recommended and I believe required, especially someone that has legal representation. So we've got that. Commercial lenders are on our board. Some of them are bankers. We have a couple business owners on our board, CPA, like I said. That really comprises of board. We have someone that used to work at the SBDC at USF on our board. So you have the community development type of people, and then you have the bankers. Then we have a separate loan review committee. So, but every CDC does it differently. So for us, a lot of my board is on my loan review committee. There are a couple board members that are at a bank that can't be. But most of my bankers can be on my loan review committee. And then I have external folks on my loan review committee. And that switches off every quarter to not overwhelm our loan review committee. So every quarter, it switches off. So I have an A and a B loan review committee. So they're on 6 months, but it switches off every 3 months.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but again, I've talked to other CDCs that do it very differently. So it's just how people
I'm just
are
talking about you today
right?
and SEDCO. So,
yeah.
So you actually initially took a BDO position with the plan to become the president.
Correct. Yes.
Is that normal?
With my history, I would say yes. I was an executive in banking for years. So I was like a COO of a bank up in Indiana. So I ran all the operations, the BSA, compliance, all the branch managers reported to me. So I'd had that level of leadership. So when I came to SEDCO, it was kind of, it was a step back, but it kind of was. It was like I was just a BDO. It was the first position I'd had in 15 years where I didn't have direct reports. Very first position. So I'd had that for years prior. So that was kind of the objective is what can she offer and what can she bring to the table?
Why were you willing to do that?
So it's funny you should ask. I was willing to do that. First of all, I was very interested in SBA. Second of all, I would say I always did very well in banking. So I was very comfortable going into this because it was still kind of banking, but not really. So I was comfortable leaving, going, if this doesn't work out, I'll go right back into banking because I always had so much success in banking anyway. So I just felt like, it's close to it, and there's a trajectory for me in my career.
What had your experience been with SBA prior to that?
Not much.
Really?
Not much at all. Yeah, really.
We love bringing in an outsider, shake it up a little bit.
Yeah, because I view things a little differently because I'm from the banking side. But I think a lot of people that are successful in SBA do have that banking background. Because I joke that I don't run the seat. Most nonprofits, we're a nonprofit, right? We don't run them as nonprofits. It's a tax status.
Right.
So we really, our goal is to make money, and it's not a social program, so to speak. Where different nonprofits, that's what they do when they say, "Oh, I'm a nonprofit." That's what I do, right?
Right.
Where we're not, we make money based on doing loans.
I mean, did you think when you were a BDO and you didn't have any direct reports, did you for a second think like, wow, this is nice. Maybe I should just keep doing this?
I loved it. No, I did. It's funny because it was the first time, Ray, where I thought, I've been selling people how to sell for 15 years. And now I have to do I actually buy everything I've been selling to everybody? Do you know what I mean? Like I have to put those tasks and those responsibilities on me in practice. So it was definitely different for me to do that because I was like, well, let's see if everything I've been telling people to do actually works. I mean, I say it does because that's what I did and that's how I got successful. But my point is I hadn't been in the front sales role, right? Being the boots on the ground, so to speak, for years.
Yeah, because you could get detached from that.
Right, absolutely.
If you stay there too long. And so it's actually, I think it's probably invaluable that you were able to go there and get a very up and close feel of who the customers are, who the banks are, who the clients are, and then take that with you into this next chapter, as president.
For sure. And SEDCO, I always joke, a couple of my team members don't like that I say this, but it felt like a startup because if SEDCO didn't come around until 15-16 because it was a merger of two CDCs. So did you know that?
No, I did not.
Okay. So Gulf Coast Business Finance and Tampa Bay Economic Development Corporation merged. Oh. So when I was the BDO, I'm out selling SEDCO and you're, to mostly bankers. That's who we're usually getting a lot of our deals from. And you have to explain who you are. Oh, do you remember Gulf Coast Business Finance? Oh yeah, that's us. So it felt like a startup because we changed our name. I mean, we utilized all the, information like EIN and all that from Gulf Coast. We grabbed onto that, and we're going to turn 40 this year. But it was a new name. So It kind of felt like that as a salesperson going out in the marketplace.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that in our industry, really. So you come in there and the president leaves early.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And a board member comes in. Were you like, well, hold up a second?
Yeah. We all were. I mean, because I think the whole plan was for that, but it all kind of got uprooted really, really quickly for everybody. And so, you have that moment going, well, this was my plan. And, it became where, the board got very involved. And at the end of the day, it was our team got involved because, again, Linda Anderson's been with us for 30 years. This is her baby. So for it to just kind of uproot like that was really, really challenging for the whole team. And the way I saw it is I was like, well, you know what? If it doesn't work out, my plan was 3 years, right? So if it doesn't work out, again, I can always go back into banking and I'll be successful. And that's the way I've always kind of handled it. So I think we handled it very, very well, that transition, but it was tough during the time. But I will say I'm thankful that it happened the way that it did, especially for me. And the reason I say that is with the merger, there were half of the board members were from Gulf Coast and half of the board members were from SEDCO. And so that's how they were picked when SEDCO was born. So, there were people upset with the past president, people, right? So there was all of that kind of happening in the background. And I will say that if it had gone to a vote, from what I've gathered, I probably would have become president right away. But it didn't. And so that was stressful, right? In that first 3-4 months, the board was like, nah, we might do a search or whatever. Long story short, board members asked for my resume and they said she's eminently qualified for this role. And so that's kind of what transpired. But the reason I say that is once that happened and once I had the opportunity to actually sit down with the board, I did a strategic plan. I had the entire team do a SWOT analysis. I said, don't talk to each other, do your own. And I did a whole SEDCO SWOT analysis. I did the strategic plan. I had been running the last couple board meetings with financials and everything. And the saying was, Brooke's clearly running the organization.
Right.
Like, so that's what transpired. And what I mean by I was happy it happened that way is because I have full board support now. If it had happened in April or May, I might be fighting with half of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, they all bought in to me, and that makes a big difference on how I perform and how the board performs around me.
Well, yeah, it's amazing that worked out. I'm glad it worked out. So then once you get through that, is it just continuity of business, or do you go in there with certain initiatives to change things?
So continuity first, because everything was, it was a big of an uproar for several months. And I didn't actually hire a BDO for several months. And it was really, I'm fiscally conservative. Good, better, and different I am. And so, looking at our financials going, listen, I just want to, pump the brakes a little bit. I want to be able to, I'm going to do both jobs. I'm going to do BDO and president for a while until I kind of wrap my arms around what I really want, what we want to do as an organization. And so I put a 3-year strategic plan together, and we've been executing on that, making changes, because I think that's what a strategic plan's about. You have to make changes. Obviously, 2 years ago, did anyone think what happened actually obviously everything gets changed. So
right.
That's what we've been doing for the last several years. And every year I look at it and I review it and determine what different programs we want to offer and things like that. Like we offer the CA program now. It's like the mini 7A. Do you know about that? The Community Advantage loan program?
What is that up to?
25 to now 350, 25,000 to 350,000. And it's like a mini 7A, but they're priced more aggressively than 7A. So if a borrower can go into a 7A, it's better for them as far as their interest rate's concerned. But we kind of fill that gap of small business loans that are startups and things like that really banks aren't really wanting to.
Yeah. And you're doing that just in Florida, right?
Yes.
No, that's helpful.
All over the state. Yeah. We just got one approved. It's an ice cream shop in Jacksonville.
Oh, nice.
Startup. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, a lot of 7A lenders don't like to do the smaller loans.
Right.
So that's perfect.
Yeah. Well, and that's why SBA's been, I don't know if I'm sure you know, but SBA's been talking about doing direct lending.
Yes.
And that's where that's coming from, because I think the 7A fills that gap of more, outside the conventional box, right, of lending, but the banks aren't wanting to do the smaller, more riskier deals, because quite frankly, they're riskier, they're tougher to do, and the rate of return isn't what banks are looking for. So
right.
SBA says, oh, we'll do direct lending. I don't think that's a great idea. Quite frankly, I actually said that congressionally. I don't think it's a good idea that SBA does direct lending.
Well, most people agree with that, but everyone also agrees with that there's a problem with the small loan stuff.
Correct.
But did you see they raised the margin that you can charge now on some of these smaller deals
Yes.
for 7A lenders?
Yes.
That's probably, I would think that would help.
Yeah, I think it will too. And there's got to be, if we had a solution, we'd be millionaires, right? What is the solution? Because you want to do those deals, but at the end of the day, too, banks are heavily regulated. So there's just deals they can't do. And so you have to kind of understand, There's just deals they just can't do. They're not going to, a lot of them aren't going to do a projection-based startup loan.
Right.
They just stay away from those because they're tough. They're tough to do.
Well, and it's the SBA, the SBA, it's like a job creation program, right? And banks are there to make money, and
Correct.
It's just not.
Yeah, we have an economic goal of every 504 loan we do, and every
Right.
CDC does, which is different than any other loan program.
Switching gears, but you brought it up. So you testified in front of Congress.
I did.
And did you go to DC for that?
Yes, I've been there twice. I testified twice, which is
wow.
uncommon, but yeah, it happened. I testified in December of 2019, so right before the pandemic. And then I testified again this past March.
How do you get chosen for something like that?
So initially, they wanted someone in Florida, and NADCO, I think, put a couple names in front of the staffers. Basically, it's the staffers that are doing a lot of the legwork, doing the interviews. So then I had an interview, and they chose me to to speak in front of Congress. And how it works is whoever's in charge of the House gets the majority of the witnesses. So now Democrats are in charge. So if you have 5 witnesses, 3 of them are going to be pulled from Democrats, 2 will be pulled from Republicans. And that's how it works.
Wow,
So,
fascinating.
so it's very interesting how it works. I will say though, congressionally speaking, it's very bipartisan. So, whether you're Republican or Democrat, they're all pretty supportive of the program. But the reason, so in December of 19 was just kind of like, hey, we're doing it's all a CDC panel. It's what we're doing. Wayne works for NADCO now, but he was on the panel with me. So that was just, in normal course of business,
Right.
where March was very different.
You went up in March in 2020?
This
This
year.
2021. Okay.
I went in March of 2022. And the purpose of that was, and I'm not sure if but, obviously we have appropriations, right? Mm-hmm. Where, we have $15 billion in appropriations for SBA 504 lending. And just like, I don't know what yours is. Is it 35?
This
40
this
billion?
year, I think it was something very large.
Yeah,
but
it's a lot. I know you guys have a lot more.
Yeah, we're not going to even come close.
And it's just it's just what they can approve, right? So that's what it is. And there was $7.5 billion in debt refi and $7.5 billion in regular 504. So like than what we typically do. Mm-hmm. We've seen a lot more debt refi, but we were coming up on the cap. So that was the purpose of us really pressing, Congress to do something. Because given the basic math of what we're doing every single month as far as loans in the 504 world, we are going to run out of appropriations in June.
And you're halfway. At the time you were halfway through the fiscal year?
Yeah, we were. It was January, February when all this. I testified in March, but January, February, we're doing the math going. If we keep the volume up that we have right now, we're going to run out of the regular 504 of the $7.5 billion in June.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that was the purpose of us, getting in front of Congress, making appointments. I flew up to DC, I think 3 or 4 times this year. And a couple of those were just face-to-face meetings with members of Congress on the Small Business Committee. And I mean, they govern 7A and 504. And I met with a congressman from Missouri. And it went very well. They have 15-minute meetings, and the staffers, there's like 6 staffers in there and 1 congressperson. It's just it's very interesting how that all works. But that meeting actually went about 35 minutes, which I actually had Rhonda and Renee with me from NADCO, our trade organization. So they came and had the meeting with me, and I led the meeting. They spoke a lot, but I was sitting next to the congressman talking shop about it. And one of the things that really hit home to him was our default rate, and he was like, this isn't
which
just
is low.
It's very low. It's 0.6% for 10 years. So at the end of the day, this isn't this free government program. And I'm talking to a Republican who is fiscally conservative, right? And so I am too. So I was able to kind of speak his language and say, this isn't just like a free handout. We expect borrowers to pay us back. And by the way, they do. And so this is a program that is working, that is doing very well, and it's doing so well that we need this to change. So our ask was really combine it, $15 billion and 504. Now
that seems very reasonable.
Right. You would think it would just be easy to be like, okay, this is but because debt refi was originally, it was a pilot program. Now it's permanent. Right. So that's that was our ask. So what they did is they moved money from debt refi into regular 504, because in fiscal year 2021, of the $7.5 billion in debt refi, we used $709 million, roughly $709 million. In the regular 504, we ran out of appropriations, and for 2 to 3 weeks in September, we stopped. We were taking applications. SBA was taking the applications and putting them in the queue. We could not approve anything till after October 1st when there's a continuing resolution. And that's a very big deal. It's a very big deal for our industry. It's not good for the lenders to see, they've got a contract they need to close in 60 days and we can't approve a loan for 3 weeks. That's not okay. So we didn't want that to happen again.
So you were at risk of running out of the regular 504.
Correct.
June. So you'd have 3 months of sitting on your hands, which some people would have liked a little bit of a break.
No. Not me.
And then, and isn't this, how much taxpayer dollars is going to subsidize this program?
Right now, none. Zero.
Okay.
Zero subsidy.
So
that was the other big thing. We operate on zero subsidy and
zero subsidy. You're just moving money from here.
excellent
That's
default
gonna
rate. Right.
unused money here, move it there.
Correct.
And that took you going there multiple times at all these meetings. They couldn't just be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
Where do I sign?
Yes. And I know there's a lot of things I don't know about how all that works because it's the appropriations committee.
It's government.
So,
That's
right.
Say no more.
It's very, of course, I'm pretty direct and I'm like, I don't understand how this doesn't make, like, it's all 504. Like, let us just put $15 billion together. We'd love to have more, but at this point, that's what we need. We need it to be combined in one program.
So were you in the like the House chamber or something, like testifying in that big room over there where you watch on TV and stuff?
No, yeah, I was there. And that's usually the best way to do it if you can, is to be there. There were members on Zoom, so it was kind of weird because they were up on a camera and I was like looking this way and it was just very awkward, but there were a lot of them were in front of you asking questions. And the toughest part in that, I had my opening statement, it's 5 minutes and I had it fairly memorized. It's they're asking you questions. It's different than you asking me questions. You're in it. 7A, like the back of your hand, SBA lending, right? These people don't know SBA lending. So you always wonder if they're going to ask a crazy question that you're like, oh, I don't even know what that question means. Right. So that is always the last, the 2 times. And probably if I ever go again, that's the concern or the nervous part of that is the Q&A, because they could ask you a question totally off the wall that has nothing to do with your program and you don't want to sound dumb, but you also don't want to make them sound dumb. So it's just this like, how do I answer these questions? So, and it's funny because they usually, you find this, I found this, that Democrats are asking the Democrat witnesses the questions and the Republicans are asking the Republicans questions. But they will, like I said, in this, it's very bipartisan. So they're very open to, Miss Mirenda, you can go ahead and answer that question as well too. Like if the Democrat asks someone specific a question.
Yeah. So, well, that's crazy.
It's very interesting how it all works there in DC.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, that must have been an exciting time.
It was. Looking back at the time, it's nerve wracking, but yes, it was exciting. And I'll hand it to NADCO, our trade organization. They are very involved. They're a lot smaller than like a NAGL, but still they're very involved in the Congress. One of the individuals that works there used to work for Rubio.
Oh, nice.
She used to work for Marco Rubio. So she understands that process, with the staffers and getting in front of, how do we do that? How do we get in front of the decision makers? Because they're doing the legislation, right? And then SBA's passing regulation. People don't necessarily understand that process. And that's, another thing that I discussed. It was not just, the meetings were really about the appropriation. And then the testimony was actually about the debt refi and ALP Express. So that's what we were really pushing on. ALP Express, and the ALP Express got passed in December of 2020.
What is that?
Accredited lender program. So it's basically almost like PLP for 7A, where we're able to approve loans up to $500,000 our debenture. So about a little over $1.2 million total project.
Got it.
Right? Because we're only financing a portion of that. So we were looking at that going, we're trying to essentially, make sure we can process these in-house and get them through faster, because SBA turnaround times in the 504 world have been pretty slow. I mean, 15, 20, 30 days, long time. And so that, so we've been really pushing on this. And again, it came out December of 2020. So, it's been 18 months and we still don't have we still didn't have the regs. We have them now. They just popped in the last 30 days.
Oh, nice.
So, but it sunsets next year. So is it going to give us enough time? You know what I mean? So we went into, the testimony was about the ALP Express and bringing parity to the debt refinance, because the way we review and we view the legislation and then regulation, SBA writes the regulation based on legislative intent, right? So if we don't think that was, translated the way we believe it should be translated, we knock on the doors and say, we think that the regs need to change a little bit, and especially the debt refi.
This is all the sausage making that goes behind the scenes.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we see it all the time when a new SOP comes out, PPP, all like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you got me thinking, I mean, why wouldn't a CDC just have the ability to approve, up to 5 million? Or why is there a limit? If they're letting 7A lenders do everything in-house, and you can go do 10 SBA loans and then get PLP and then do everything in-house. Meanwhile, a CDC that's done 100 504 loans still has to send it to the SBA. Does that make any sense?
No. And that's why we're really fighting that. I think, I'm sure, someone at SBA has a better answer than I would have, but I would think that, obviously if you do anything wrong, you lose that guarantee, right? And you're funding it yourself. We don't fund the 504s ourselves. So it is a different program. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so I think
that's true.
I think that is where the difference is. You do $1 million loan, your company's writing $1 million check. If they sell it, they're getting $750,000 back. They're either selling the other $250 or keep whatever they do, right? But they have that guarantee where they get that money back. If they sell, they get that money back. That's not their own capital, so to speak, right? So
I get that.
So there's, you know what I mean? So I think that's why it's like that. And again, we just, in the CDC world, I would speak for every CDC in the United States. We just want things that make sense. There are a lot of things that just, for example, we have to do 327 actions. Do you know what those are? I was gonna say those are changes to an auth. Whenever an author is
we have to do those
yeah,
too.
exactly. So we have to do them in a lot of our files. So we have a 327 action that is putting a comma in. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
boy.
we have the credit elsewhere letter that has, the bank name, and we didn't add Florida in the bank name because that's not what the credit elsewhere letter said. But the loan docs say that. So it's like we sometimes get in our own way of things that just don't make sense. And my measurement is what is the risk versus reward based on what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like, okay, is it the same bank? Yes, it is. So I just think sometimes we get in our own way. And I know there's a reason, right? It's like there's always a rule or a law because someone did something really dumb or,
Exactly.
So I totally get that. But it's like, let the CDCs, especially the ones who have ALP, like SEDCO, we have the accredited lender program. We get audited. We've been very clean. So let us do business, let us make those, even if we have to do 327 in-house, approve the 327. Do you know what I'm saying? Like we make the note to the file and it's done and we move on.
We're not waiting the 327s.
Yeah. We're not waiting on SBA to say, yeah, we're going to bless this comma.
Oh, geez.
I mean, it's that kind of
Yeah,
thing, or
that's rough.
increasing or decreasing a project, right? By $12 or moving project dollars. Because we have to do that too. We do that a lot on especially renovation and construction projects, which we're moving money from one bucket to another. It's all eligible, but we're moving money from, say, construction to interim interest. And we have the proof that that's all eligible and it's all there. We can't make a $10 change without going to SBA. And that just doesn't make sense to me. It's a colossal waste of our time and, to me, SBA's time.
It doesn't make sense. So when you send a loan to the SBA for approval, what percentage are getting screened out?
So we're seeing our first pass rate is like 75% right now. So that's first pass, meaning it goes so pretty good. I think the average right now in CDCs is in the mid 60s, first pass rate. They're doing this thing, they're avoid a screen out, which we're seeing. So if maybe they don't see something or something hasn't been uploaded or they're missing one small thing or they just have one question, they'll do what's called an avoid a screen out. And that doesn't count against you as far as a screen out's concerned. So that helps.
Okay.
Because that first pass rate, they're really looking at that for ALP status.
Because that's on them if they miss something. Right.
Yeah. And we've seen, for example, I'll give you a couple examples of some screen outs we've seen, and they've been 7A refis because we can now refinance 7A.
Oh, yeah. That's huge for 504.
It is big, but the way the regs were written, it's really tough.
There's always a.
So I'm fighting that. Just so you know, I'm fighting that because if at the end of the day, we're supposed to be looking out for small business, they should be able to, if they can get out conventionally, why can't they get out into a 504? Because it says, I think the legislation says substantially all has to be eligible. And in the 504 world, what do we think? Substantially all is 51%, but they put 85%. So 85% of a deal, of a 7A deal, has to be for eligible eligible assets or, eligible project cost under a 504 loan. And so what we've seen, for example, I'll give you an example. We have in the SOP, it talks about when you're doing a debt refinance, generally speaking, no matter what, take out the government loan. When you're doing a debt refinance, you have to match collateral. Well, that's been a big problem in the 7A world because, as you know, 7A lenders, they have to take all available collateral. But in the 504 world, if it's eligible and it's the 85% rule and the appraisal supports the refinance just under a 504, we still have to take their home and everything else. And that is a lot of the reason why some people want out of the 7A, not just the interest rate. I mean, the interest rate right now I know is going to start killing people depending on how often it changes. But for us, it's quarterly on our CA loans. We it's quarterly. So it's, to match, collateral is challenging when we're like, oh yeah, we still need to take your house. And, it's just, that's unfortunate because the 504 program is a different program than the 7A.
Right.
And they serve different purposes. They're both great programs. They just serve different purposes. So if someone does a 7A loan as a, majority real estate, there's reason to do that. I know other CDCs may say you should never do that, but there are reasons banks will do that and lenders will just do land, building, and $100,000 of working capital. We're going to put it all under 7A, and that's fine. But in a couple years from now, when, as we've seen, what has happened in interest rates, most 7A are priced as prime, right? I know some banks won't price it that way, but that's what they're priced.
You can go prime plus 3 right now, which is 8.5%.
Right. And that's, and how do they make money? They make money by the term and the rate. And so if you can, maximize that, that's how banks price the 7A loans, which is, again, totally fine. But now if it's been seasoned 2 or 3 years, because now it's 6 months old. So debt can be refinanced at 6 months. Because I think what they should have done, if you want to know my opinion, they should have, in my opinion, not put all the rules in. Like, it has to be an eligible 504, right? I understand that. It's got to be, land, building, construction, whatever. But they should have put a rule in, maybe if it's other government debt, given it a 2 or 3 years. It's got to be seasoned 2 or 3 years. The reason I think they put a lot of stipulations in, quite frankly, is to protect investors. And I get that. We can't just ignore the piece. Investors are buying out
on the secondary market.
Correct. That's exactly right. Because you risk the investment, you risk that investment relationship if 6 months from now you can get out of that loan and get into a fixed rate loan.
Well, that could have the potential to crash a lot of things.
That's right.
But there is the 5% prepayment penalty on the 7A in year one.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's almost like.
But that could be included in the project. Did you know that?
Okay.
I know. I'm just saying, but that's my point.
It would still probably make financial sense then to do that. But
yeah.
I see what you're saying, because the prepay is just about, it dictates the premiums almost. So that's why rates are going up, prepays spike, and now the premiums are down.
Correct.
And that wouldn't help.
Right.
So I see that. Yeah. So there's always a little bit of.
There is. So you have to understand, you have to kind of take a step back, because in the CDC world, we're like, we should be able to refinance. You got to look and go, okay, what is the repercussions of that? And what they could have done is said, it's got to be at least 3 years as 7A. If it's a 7A loan that could have been done as a 504, you know what I mean? Or for the majority of it could have, but it was done 7A. It's got to be seasoned 3 years. It's out of a lot of the prepayment, a lot of prepayment language. It's out of that. Then allow that to go and not have all the other caveats, matching collateral, for example, all of the other things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because then that borrower is now seasoned, because for whatever reason, the bank wanted to do it as a 7A, or the lender, and now they're seasoned. They can go into more of a conventional product. Because really, I think of, angel investors, venture capitalists, SBA, conventional. That's kind of this and within that is 7A and 504. So if they're not quite ready for conventional, 504 could be a really good option for them to fix their interest rate, or at least on a portion of their loan.
Going back to what you were saying on the 75% pass-through rate, would that be like a pretty good sell to a bank to say, we have this higher than average pass-through rate? So
yes, absolutely.
Because there's 4 CDCs in Florida?
Several. Yeah, there's a lot.
I only know 4.
I only know 4 too. It's funny because I saw the list and there were 6 on there, and I was like, I don't even know who the other 2 are.
Maybe they do 1 or 2 a year or something. But
there's a couple that do, they're an LSP and things like that. But really, obviously, the players in the state of Florida that are doing a lot of the deals.
Because you're all, it's very, I feel, maybe I'm wrong, but the product's almost identical. The 504 product itself.
Yeah, it's the same.
So how do you differentiate?
Me, Chelsea, my team, honestly, and I would say the timeliness. We are responsive at SEDCO. We move deals very fast. When the pandemic happened, I have 5 underwriters. That's a lot.
That's a lot
for our small CDC. So the point is when a file gets dropped, we're moving it very quickly through the back end because we don't have time to wait. We're already waiting for SBA. So
right.
When, I lost a BDO, what I did is I hired a couple credit analysts because we weren't out visiting people, we weren't out seeing people, and that's what I did. So
interesting.
We were able to move deals really fast, and we're doing a lot more CA too. So we've been able to, mix in that product with our 504. So, but that's what I would say, speed and market. Being able to call Brooke, and those are the differentiators between us and the other ones. And the other ones are, they're like number 1, number 2 in the country. So in other states, we'd be really, really big, but in Florida,
wow. So a big 504 state here.
Correct. We are a big 504 state. Yes.
So
I'll give it to the other CDCs because I haven't been in the industry all that long. So thank you.
We're all friends.
We're all friends.
What's your go-to-market strategy then? Like, because a lot of these CDCs will just hire a BDO in every market. Like,
right?
What do you guys do?
So looking to do that right now. Actually, we're going to hire in a couple different markets at this point now that we're going back out, because I think boots on the ground is really, really important. Lenders want to see the CDC person, at events and out to lunch and things like that. So we're going back to that strategy where I'm going to be hiring probably 2 business development officers in the next 90 days.
Oh, wow.
So, because we do have the back office to support that as well. So that's what's really helpful. We've really, I would say we've really gotten our front and our process pretty tightened up, which is really, really good. So as far as, when a deal comes in and what the process is to get it to our loan review committee, to get it to SBA as quick as possible, what does that process look like? And we've really refined that in the last couple years since we've had more support in the back office.
Yeah. And you've got a lot of folks that have been with you a while, huh?
We do. Yeah. Linda just celebrated 30 years. She's our portfolio manager. So she's got a lot of just that institutional knowledge that I think is really important. I think Sandra, she's going to kill me 15 or so years. Beth's down in South Florida. She's been in, I don't even know how long she's been in SBA, but almost as long as I've been alive, maybe close to that. So she knows SBA very well. So
she has a daughter in SBA.
She has a daughter in SBA, yes, who's awesome too. So yeah, there is, and then we have, most of my all of my credit analysts had 0 experience when I hired them. None.
Well, it's hard. How do you hire for the business development position?
We look for bankers. Even if they don't know the 504, that's okay. We can teach them that. And sometimes, the philosophy can be, don't hire people with a lot of bad habits either, right? So
we were just talking about that at lunch.
Oh, really? So, you kind of go, hey, we can develop them the way we want to develop them and the way our process works. And are they going to fit in this process? So I'd say very aggressive individuals, but we can teach them. I need them to be able to be professional and be, I want a person like we have, with Chelsea and Beth, a person that's totally comfortable putting our BDO right in front of a lender. Our bankers absolutely just take it. That's what we want because we're very concierge. We are very good at helping bankers that have never done a 504. Because I would say a lot of us started at the ground level. So, you ask other people, oh, what's note rate? What's debenture rate? I know all of that because I was like, what does that mean? I don't want to sound like so again, you learn that when you don't know anything and you have to learn everything. I think that has been super helpful, quite frankly, as far as our whole team. Because again, like I said, our credit analyst had literally no experience when I hired them, but I was able to grab them and train them up and,
That's a huge value add because not a lot of people are willing to do that. And then you're growing your own people and doing it your way. We try to do the same thing. That's awesome. So do you think there's any validity to, because the model has been to market to bankers. Do you think there's any validity to marketing directly to small business owners? Yeah, I do. You think that could work? I do. It's how you execute on that I would struggle with. Is it flyers? Is it emails? How do you, is it this kind of thing? Is it, through social media? I feel like you really need to market to small business owners, but the reality of it is they don't know about the program, but the lenders do. They're the ones that
are like, this probably isn't going to fit our conventional box. So let's participate a portion of it out. And given the way I think banks, I've already seen it a lot tighten up. I mean, I see some of these banks not renewing very good loans.
I'm seeing it.
And so I think we are going to see an uptick, even though the rates are a little bit higher or an uptick, or we're going to continue to grow, organically. I don't see us necessarily like drying up like some of these banks, because I think banks are going to want to utilize the SBA more so because of 2021 numbers.
Brooke, I want to thank you for joining.
Thank you for
the
having
Art
me.
of SBA Lending.
I appreciate it.
All right, that's it for this week. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode of The Art of SBA Lending. And if you have any feedback or suggestions, email me at ray@artofsba.com. Until next time, ta-ta.